because I find out that I get cut or I get burned. Ooh, that's not good. So I have to protect this because this is me.
Yeah. Yeah, and everyone around you is telling you that this is you.
Exactly. And again, that's why I'm saying if everybody went out on a Friday night and just blottoed themselves and couldn't remember anything the next day, and you're totally amnesia, but you were wearing a pirate costume and you were on a pirate ship, and people actually told you, Kathleen, go and swab the deck. Come on, let's get going. You'd be like, swab the deck? What are you talking about? But you would fall into the role because everyone's telling you that you're a pirate. You're on this ship. And that's the way you do have no memories of anything prior to suddenly waking up this morning and being a pirate.
Yeah. You're on a ship called the Earth, hurtling through space.
Yeah. I mean, you just come to and, oh, that's it. The sense of existence clicks with the body and there you are. And then all the people are telling you, you're this body, you're this person. And then you start to see that if you do good things, people clap. Oh, good job, Kathleen. Everything's great. You do bad things, they say, oh, Kathleen, that's not so good. So then your egoistic sense of self is built. I am praised and I am punished. And so then fear and desire start to take form. I desire the attention of others and praise of others because it feels good. I fear getting punished, therefore I don't do these different activities. And I'm taking credit for activities that are happening spontaneously. But I'm developing the sense of ego, the egoic sense of self. That's why Nisargadatta Maharaj says, at 3 years of age, you recognize your mother as something separate from yourself. This is me and this is mom. Other than that, it was just, at 1 year or 2 year, you're moving about and you have no sense of an individual self. You're just bumping into things and trying things and eating when it's time to eat and playing when it's time to play, pooping when it's time to poop, doing whatever. But then all of a sudden there's a you and there's a me. So the sense of me starts to be impressed. Who's this me? And now it's me exploring the outside world rather than just crawling around on the floor.
The problem is the process gets stuck because nobody asks, who is this me? Unless they're ready to wake up out of the trance of existence.
Yeah, well, and again, like Maharaj says, inside the dream, you go and look for somebody who says, hey, you're dreaming, wake up. Don't worry about the dream, don't talk about the dream, just wake up. And Nisargadatta Maharaj says, you don't want to wake up because there are some parts of the dream you like, and other parts of the dream you don't. But you need to just see the dream as dream and be rid of it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of the, like, meditating this week, one of the things that came to me is that there's this tendency to want something, but it's like wanting something from nothing. Everything is nothing. It's just, there's some expectations there, like you want, maybe there's something in the dream that, like is appealing or attractive or something, there's a wanting. And, that basically is, it takes a lot. Just to catch yourself with that constantly, over and over and just kind of hammer away at it. And another thing, I was reading with, Ultimate Truth, it made so much sense. Sometimes these things just kind of they come very clear. They just really are, they just crystal clear. But the whole thing about the memories, erasing one memory at a time or just erasing them and getting down to the base memory, which is the substratum, he says. It's just basically, except self or self, there's nothing. It's just the original memory, you might say. I guess that's the I am, right?
There's a sense of presence that you're the knower of.
Yeah.
This presence is the first thing that appeared, and you're the witness of that.
Right.
Since this presence appeared to you and disappears, you're the background, the substratum, or whatever, of all of this thing. And that's why you just remain with this, Nisargadatta Maharaj says, and Ramakant Maharaj says, be with you always. Nisargadatta Maharaj says, remain with the I am. And Ramakant Maharaj kind of blasts the I am concept because it's been built as a concept of something where that's not so good. You have the building block and you say, oh, this is I am. Now I understand I am. No, you are this I am without needing to understand. And when the sense of presence is witnessed, you're from the absolute standpoint, because that absolute standpoint that selfless self, is the only thing that can witness presence. Nothing else can, because everything that's witnessed is more subtle. Something has appeared to that. So when this sense of presence is here and you're using this body form to feel this sense of presence, you are more subtle than the sense of presence. Therefore, sense of presence is the first appearance, and then the entire world appeared on this presence. And whenever you start to get involved in anything, oh, I've taken the touch that I'm a body. It's just not true. And the more you act and behave in the moment as you are not a body, therefore you need nothing. Like you said, everything's fluffy clouds, but I have to kind of impress about the fact that I don't really need these things. I don't really need this. I don't have to stress myself out about this, because I'm the formlessness in which all this is occurring. And because that really is the reality, the mind kind of surrenders to that. Because the mind is sitting there, the flow of thoughts is all about what you know in the form world. Mind only knows what's after it, the impressions, the memories, and memories of things I don't want to have continue, memories of things I do want to have continue, so desire and fear. But the mind, ego, intellect come along with the body, like Sri Ramakant Maharaj has said, and the presence, the body has appeared on spontaneous presence along with all of the world. So you are the witness. You are the knower of this sense of presence. But don't even say knower, because then you say, okay, well, if there's a knower, then there's something that knows. But there's just a knowing. There's a knowingness, a formless knowingness without a knower that can be pointed to, because that pointing is formless. Maharaj says, invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity. That you are.
Yeah, some famous person said, they asked who he was, he said, I am a verb.
A verb?
A verb. In other words, it's a happening rather than a doer, rather than an entity. It's like an action, like a knowing rather than a knower. So there's a action word there rather than a noun, which it implies a thing.
Well, and see, it's again as if the space in this room was actively aware of itself and completely intelligent, but had nothing to like some kind of an instrument that it had to use to know this I exist, because it's everywhere, it's everything, and then it kind of funnels into a body, and you can think about it like Maharaj says, this is a dead body of the 5 elements, totally lump of goo, and the space in this room uses this form to speak. There's an instrument in this body as the voice box, but it's this space, this selfless self, that's using this instrument to speak, and using the instruments to listen and to speak, because the body is an instrument that can provide for ears that hear, but the selfless self is the one that's hearing. The food that you put in your mouth, there's tasting, but the tongue and the teeth are not tasting anything. It's the selfless self that's tasting. That Siddhar Meshra Maharaj talks about God, the doorways to God, servicing himself in all different various ways that he may wish to do. Because each one of these body forms is a sensory machine that provides sensations for this sense of presence to know the form as a formlessness. But see, the thing is, don't get caught as I am this body. I'm not this body I'm using. Because even if you say this body is mine, it automatically separates you from the body. This body is mine, just like this water is mine, these glasses are mine, they're objects that I'm saying are mine. But now the formlessness is the one that holds all the objects, including the various forms, and he uses Kathleen when he wishes to speak through Kathleen. Not he, it, that, whatever. When that wishes to speak through Kathleen, when that wishes to speak through John, when that wishes to speak through Sandra or Andrew or Trish, when that wishes to speak, it uses this instrument to do the speaking. The only question is, why are you identifying with the instrument rather than the formlessness that's using form to be able to communicate.
Right.
And since it's formless, everything that occurs in the form world doesn't matter at all. That's the big thing. The egoistic sense of self does not like this, because there's a what about me?
Yeah.
What about my whole life? You mean it meant nothing? When I'm gone, it meant nothing? What about the afterlife and being the soul that flies off into the sunset or whatever? But see, there never was an individual. There was an appearance in consciousness, using consciousness to know other appearances and the assumption that they were somehow separate. And the beautiful, most easy way to know, quote, enlightenment instantaneously is to know the sense of presence as yourself, because you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. The only way that the concept of separation even makes sense is when you limit yourself to a form and say, this is my body, that's your body. And how some of the people explain about air, the prana, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, you're breathing in, breathing out. That's the selfless self going in and out of all the bodies. It's absolutely formless. That you are, not the body form. So this container is not going to last forever, and it will be gone. And that's just that. It's a 5 elemental body that will return to the 5 elements. But the presence that's in this body won't go anywhere, because it never did go anywhere. There was only appearance of separation through the idea of being a body. And mind, ego, intellect then kind of created this illusory prison for you to believe that I'm separate, therefore I can't be all of everything. And that's why Maharaj says, when people say, you are Brahman, well, and he says, well, how can I be Brahman? Don't make fun of me. Well, it's simple, because you're not this limited form. See, you thought you were a limited form, but you're not. You're the holder of this form, but you're also holding all the other forms. And you're formless. And you always are and always will be. There never will not be a time when you are formless. You're always formless. And once you know yourself, and that's why this sense of presence is so important, to remain with the I am, being with you always, this reflection of spirit, whatever you want to call it, that subtle feeling, that very subtle feeling, that is your selfless self expression. This is not. And the only thing that's separating that formlessness is the concept of separation by believing you're a body. But you were not body, you are not body, you're not going to remain the body. And the sense of presence is all you are. And that's it.
Existence is always there.
Yes. But without any objects other to know existence.
That's like the space you said, like the energy around you or whatever. The existence is always there, but
yes.
We don't know it. It doesn't know it's there, or we don't know it's, like until there's the body form that actually,
yes,
for that to be observed or experienced or whatever.
Exactly.
And yeah.
And it's projected spontaneously, the same as a dream at night.
I like that. I like the fact that, just the awareness of the not, just knowing that the existence is always there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's just, I don't know, it makes, it's affirming, it basically, it gives us a sense of, I don't know what to say actually, but it just makes me feel good to know that existence is always there, period. I mean, that is the reality. That is the selfless self, period. And like I'm coming and going, and the more I work at it, or the more I do what the practices suggest, the practice of the suggested to me, the more I do that, the more I enjoy that, the more I come to know that. But it's always there, it's just, I like that, because sometimes, like there's a doubt that maybe there's nothing there. When they use the word nothing, the existence is nothing, but it's, like, at the same time, it's everything,
Yeah, it's indescribable. The sense,
Yeah.
and that's why in the body form, in the human body form, you can feel this very subtle presence, this very subtle reflection of spirit, recognition in the projection, that pull, that kind of very lightness, very, very, very subtle feeling. Because you're starting to feel this, because the mind is being no longer covering up this sense of presence with all this other illusory stuff. And when it does, see, mantra, that's what mantra does. It erases all these illusory concepts so that you can kind of touch yourself and know yourself in a real sense. And then once you know yourself as formless, birth and death don't make sense anymore. So there's just a knowing of this, how, like you said, it's a very calming kind of, wow, existence is always there. And knowing yourself as the sense of existence, the I am, the spontaneous presence, invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity. Maharaj talks about the invisible listener. The presence within this body is actively listening to everything as it's speaking and listening. And the presence in this body and the presence in that body are recognizing this sense of existence. And that's why remaining in meditation, Maharaj says, a lot of meditation is good. Put some time for you. Because in meditation, you can start to feel this subtle sense. And once you touch it, it's like putting your toe in the water and you touch it and you're like, ah, it's warm. Okay, I'm happy. Before then, the mind could tell you, oh, it might be freezing cold or maybe it's scalding hot. But once you experience this experience for yourself, it's like, oh, wow. And then I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. I'm using the body to know myself in a real sense. But now I know, oh yeah, this body has nothing to do with me. And the world is just kind of the add-on that this body came with. And the batteries that are running everything are my own selfless self. Why am I fearing Kathleen or Andrew, what they're thinking? Because that's me. The essence that's in all living things, that's moving everything about, is my own selfless self. How do I know this? Because like Master has said, Ramakant Maharaj said, see yourself as formless and see the Master as formless, and there will be no separation. This is what we're speaking about. Know yourself in a real sense. I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body. This subtle feeling is formless. There is no sense of separation because I'm not a form. I know myself as formless. I know my Master is formless. My Master spoke through the form of Sri Ramakant Maharaj, and I got the pleasure of bowing to this selfless self using this body and bowing to that body. Ultimate truth came and spoke directly in the form of Sri Ramakant Maharaj. And when that's the recognition that this formlessness is using form here, that's the same formlessness here. That's why Master says, I'm not making you a disciple, I'm making you a master. Because a disciple is master, disciple, disciple, master. Two separate things, but there are no two separate things. So you are a master because you're not a disciple, and nor are you a master because except your selfless self, there's no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no master, no disciple, no mom, no dad, no brothers, no sisters, no dogs, no birds, no fish. Nothing is there.
And to know that, basically to know the, with existence simply is. So there can be no birth. I mean, like, there is no birth and death. I mean, when you really think about that.
Exactly.
Existence doesn't come and die. It doesn't come for a while, then it dies and goes away. It just disappears. But it just basically is. And that's who we are. So there's really no birth and death in terms of our formless, selfless self.
Yeah, when you know yourself in a real sense is the formlessness, the sense of presence, this reflection of spirit, this subtle I without anything. and how, again, they talk about in the Bhagavad Gita, it cannot be cut or burned or any of these sort of things, because how? The space in this room, how can you damage the space in this room? It cannot be. And yet, if you take the concept of the space in this room is speaking through this body form, because the space is using this instrument, almost like a sci-fi movie, if they put you in a chamber and something possessed this body and began speaking, it's the same, except there is nothing here to possess, because it's only the selfless self, the space in the room, that's speaking. There is nothing here to empty out, to possess.
And even knowing that, there is, like there's this, it's just catching oneself with this wanting something. There's nothing there, but there's this wanting. It's like an old habit, like, and that's what Maharaj is saying, basically, it's just these ingrained habits over the years of, wanting this or wanting that, wanting to be healthy, wanting, whatever. Just this catching yourself and letting those things go one by one, kind of. It's just like, it's like you have the insight, and you have the kind of like the moment of really, it all opens up and it's very clear and you're inspired. But then you return to the work process, of working through that, letting it go, basically working through that wanting of something, yeah.
Mantra.
Yeah.
Because what you're talking about is like the window's getting a little dirty and you just have to clean it.
Yeah.
And the more you clean it, the more you'll see the little reflections of dirt before they become a whole dirty window.
Yeah.
And mantra is exactly that. It's erasing the concept slowly, silently, permanently. That's why Maharaj says the fire's burning, the ash just has to be removed. The ash is me, my thoughts, my wants, my desires, my life, all the things, my body relations that I believe are so important, and all of these things.
And every concept's got to go. I mean, like everything. It's like
absolutely. It's just I, just I. I without anything. The sense of presence, there's nowhere for concepts to be. You have to consider yourself as an individual rather than formlessness using form. You have to consider yourself as an individual in order for any kind of anything to make sense in that way. Even to fool yourself that this matters to whom? Which one of the people in the room is you? If the space is the one that's speaking and just using the various instruments that are in the room to do the speaking. And because this is the reality, as you give up this illusion and you stop trying to pretend to be this person that does these things and all this stuff, it's natural that the mind just stops. Because the mind is like, it's producing thoughts to you, about something that just is not at all about you. How can it be about you? Who is this you that these thoughts are about? It has to be about this Andrew. The label on this body form that you're using as an instrument that you used to believe you were. Now you know you're not. So any thought about Andrew doesn't really impress, other than, like Maharaj says, do your job, do your duties, be very humble, be very casual. The more you're humble and casual, and the people that you see, you're just so like, you're not bothering anyone, nothing's bothering you, you're just kind of there. Because there's nothing here to protect. You're not thinking about, oh, this person might be looking at me, or did I do this, or something, because you're not so impressed in the form anymore. You're just like formlessness seeing, formlessness speaking, formlessness acting, but only in the moment, and then just remaining with your selfless self.
To really to really kind of like have the deep sense that if I'm in a group with a room of people and someone's speaking and then someone else is speaking, you know, selfless self is speaking through different persons and saying different things according to their, I guess, conditioning or their
Correct.
characteristics or whatever.
Correct.
To really have that, I mean, I have to be out of the way completely to really,
Yes.
to really, you know, like understand that and kind of like let it all just go and just not be, you know.
Yes. If there's a you, it can't be done, because then there's a you trying to do it. When there's no you, there can't be others.
Yeah.
And you're just, and that's why there's no, it's just very light. Even a business meeting, it's very light, because there's no mind impressions of how this, you're not trying to figure anything out. You're just there, and speaking and listening is occurring, and everything is good. You're not trying to grab anything. You're not trying to grasp. And the truth is, the selfless self, that's kind of this experience that's being created with this, the knowingness that I'm not thinking any ill thoughts about these guys or these people that are in this room. I'm not trying to get anything. I'm not trying to pose myself as anything. So it's very light and free. And naturally, the energy in the room will be very nice and light and free. Even if another person is very much conditioned to believe that they're a person. But you know there is no person, because you're not a person. You're not posing as a person. Therefore, there aren't other people that could be bothering your person.
Yeah, and it seemed like the cool thing about that is even though maybe somebody is disruptive or whatever, you can kind of test yourself if you have a judgment about it, and it's, you can still observe, like what do you call it, aberrant behavior without judging it. So you just notice, oh, I see that person is, you know, trying to control the room or something, and there's no judgment about it, because it's just what is. So you're not actually, it's not like you're saying, oh, everything's fine. It's like you see without judging. That's what I'm sort of picking up, is that, you know, you say you're involved in a business meeting and you see somebody saying the wrong thing or whatever. Maybe they're expressing some kind of prejudice or some kind of judgment, and you see that, but you are not judging them for doing that, because you're just noticing what is, right?
Everything is just happening, but it's happening spontaneously. So there's no judgment. There's no you that's there.
Right.
And I find too that if there is a you that's there, if some person, so to speak, is there, and this situation is what, like you said, kind of troubling or whatever, I like to look at the space that's between everyone. And you kind of see, that's something that no person does. They look at the object appearing in space, but they don't pay attention to the space between an object and an object. So if I've objectified another person, it means there's a subtle objectivity going, and egoistic senses arising. So I can remove that quickly by paying attention to the space. And the space is calming. Even when the talking is going on, it's the space that's talking. And I just sort of subtly remind myself of this. And I just, you know, you can look out a window and just concentrate on the space and not the objects in the space. Knowing that that's your selfless self, that's this consciousness, this sense of existence that birthed this whole world, just like the dreamer dreaming, all of the world is occurring inside the dream. So you pay attention to this dream space, this empty dream space, space without content, and then you can see that this space without content is animating the apparent content within that space.
It's like witnessing the dream as it's going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's only if there's a subtle wheel turning. And subtle wheel turning, sometimes in meetings, I'll sit there and just mantra. I'll listen to the mantra as it's running through this body. And just listen to mantra, pay attention to the space, respond when there needs to be a response, and that's it. And yeah, sometimes you can be kind of shocked into something. Somebody says something of, you know, oh, your team is doing lousy this month, and if you don't improve your numbers, we're going to do X, Y, Z. that can be like, oh, but it's usually because, see, you consider this as something flying through the space that you are. Because I'm formless, whom are you speaking about? There's no sense of a me that's sitting there. And I take that, yes, we need to improve performance, but I don't have the egoistic sense of self and the mind-created experience of, uh-oh, better start doing good, maybe put my resumes out, you know, all the stuff that would go on in a mind and a body identification. Instead, it's just simply something in the moment, and it's finished. No thought can disturb you because it's flowing through space. You're on the bank of the river and you're watching the sludge. And you just keep watching the sludge. You don't jump in and roll along with the sludge as you used to do. And eventually, even as you're watching the sludge, if you see your own body in the sludge, walking by, you know, rolling by in the sludge river, you'll be like, oh, okay. That's it. Because you're formlessness. Whether the body's there or not, you are. So it doesn't matter. But yet you do your job, you do your duties, you respond to things in the moment as they need responding. You'll probably find that you get a lot more done when you're not thinking that you're doing these things.
And you're not attached to the result.
Yeah. It's all going on inside the bubble of illusion. I do the best I can in the moment, and whatever the result is, it's in the bubble of illusion. Whether it's really great, if I have 5,000 people clapping and saying, oh, what a great job, or I have 5,000 people saying, you really did a terrible job. That's why Nisargadatta Maharaj says, if people say I'm a good saint, I don't think anything of it. If people say you're a very bad saint, I don't think anything of it. Why? Because they're speaking about this illusory body form within the illusion. They're not speaking about me. I am. That's it. There's nothing else. Then once this mind, go ahead.
Who was that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just realizing that everything is nothing. You know, it's like putting zero on it, basically. And zero is like a lot of space, I guess.
Absolutely. You're the formlessness holding the form. The meditation's so important. I'm sure that everyone here has felt that sense of existence, that subtle I without anything, that just I, as Nisargadatta and Ramakant Maharaj say, when you arise in the morning, you have that kind of just subtle feeling that you exist, but nothing's really started the wheels turning of I exist as something in a world. And you just, that's your natural state when you're not pretending to be doing other things or pretending to be this body, or, you know, how you have to, okay, this is mom, I have to behave a certain way with mom. This is boss, I behave a certain way with boss. And this is my friend, I behave a certain way. No, it's just formlessness using form in the moment, responding to the moment as it occurs, and knowing that nothing's happening. Because it's all happening in the bubble of illusion. It's all in the dream.
Yeah, except sometimes we want to have a good dream.
Well, the best dream is when it's not good or bad, it just is.
Yeah. If you take the judgment off of it, because that hides a subtle desire to have it one way versus the other.
Exactly. That's why Ramakant Maharaj all the time, he says, things that please you, you call good. Things that displease you, you call bad. But this is only your perception of what these things are. These things of themselves are neither good nor bad. It's how you're responding and relating to these things through your perception of being good for me or not good for me. But if there is no you, there can't be a perception of good or bad. And again, you remain with the sense of presence, the formlessness, the reflection of spirit just very subtle feeling. That's it. That's all you need to remain with. And then you understand that, like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, the only thing that can pay attention to that subtle presence is that absolute, that selfless self, that nothingness. That's from the position of this just I, nothing. And even though there appears all these appearances, I know I remain with the seer, not with the seen, because the seen is a passing illusory thing. The seer is constant. Even when there's nothing to see and no object or instrument of seeing.
Yeah, or the deep sleep, I guess.
Yeah, that's just you're. But see, it's deep sleep, but I don't know. There's no touch of you at all. I mean, there's no form. There's no touch of a form. There's no concept of being in a form. There's no, like, here's this and there's that, or this or this, or there's no object relations. It's just formlessness that's moving about. And you see, you can look at your hands and say, okay, these are my hands when I'm using this body. But this body is kind of on loan. It won't be there forever. I have to give it back, basically. When the body is no longer good, I have to give it back.
When it becomes a rotten banana.
Yeah, when the body is a rotten banana, I give it back, and I'm no longer holding this body. But the holder of the body is eternal. And even eternal doesn't make sense because you're outside of time. The only way you're in time is through the concept of separation, believing yourself to be an individual form. You're the formlessness. So how does the formlessness know what time it is? How many eons have gone by in the formlessness? There's nothing. There's no concept of time because you have to have an object in time, in space, to perceive this. And space and time, you birth them. Here are your babies.
Selfless self, it's living. It's alive. Selfless self. Always. It's existence, right? And we tap into
the ability to be alive through consciousness. Yes. Through the illusory form world. Just as you, as a dreamer, that are laying down completely still dreaming, have the ability to run and to do things and to provide for this dream world.
The Sagadatta Maharaj says that you should be like a guru with your own mind. Take it to, like I sometimes I imagine myself take my mind to a Virupaksha cave, at Arunachala, something like you have to be the guru of your own mind, kind of like you take that position towards your mind and you teach it to become absorbed in the reality.
Yes.
And
impressing this reality through the actions in the moment. See, you've been told now, Maharaj has said, you are Brahman, you are the formless reality, you are ultimate truth, invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity, formlessness using form. And so now act like this. In every moment, you just know this.
Practice, right, yeah.
Something happens that you know that in this consciousness, in this dream state, this experience is being created so that I will remain with my selfless self. Or I take the touch of body and I pretend I'm a body for a little bit at a time. But because it is the reality, as you begin living your reality, you're impressing this reality, and therefore the projections are being projected through the subtle reality and not through all the forms. It's like one of those kaleidoscope things. If you were to shine a light and you see the stars and the moon and all this stuff through like a filter. Now you remove the filter. It's just pure light. And yet, when you had the filter, you saw all these different various objects. Now you just see the pure light. There's no objects. There's no nothing. So you're just I, formlessly aware. And because that's the reality, that's what you're projecting. You're projecting this in your experience. You're the projector of the world, and the ideas and beliefs and concepts that are filtered through this mind project the dust on the screen or no dust on the screen. Your glasses, they get dirty. You start to see the world through different blobs. Eventually, if you don't clean your glasses at all, everybody looks like they're like all smeary and gooey. But that's not the reality. That's just the way you've been perceiving. And once you clean the glasses, then everything's clean and clear again. And you begin to experience the world more cleanly. And the same thing with presence. When you remain with your selfless self in the sense of presence, you're impressing this. Your reality that's projected is clean. There's no more sense of, anything that occurs. You just know it's really nothing. Somebody says, oh my God, you really have to take care of this, and this fell apart and that fell apart. What are you going to do about it? Immediately your mind goes to, what's the next thing that needs to be done in this moment? Not how it's going to affect, but okay, I need to make a phone call to someone, or I need to do something. I'm going to use this body form to perform this activity, and that's it. But I'm not worried about how the other people that may be around you are worried about something. There's no you there to worry. And you know that this is an experience that's being projected to impress reality. You welcome it. I think Nisargadatta Maharaj says he welcomes disasters and tragedies and all this sort of stuff because it's an opportunity to remain with your selfless self. And even better, to watch if there's a subtle mind ego intellect that's having some kind of commentary that this thing that's happening shouldn't be happening, even though it's appearing on your spontaneous presence.
I think Ramakant says, bring it on.
Exactly.
Bring it on.
Exactly.
It's calamities, yeah.
It's like you go to the mirror and you look and there's a lion in the mirror. Well, there's no lion in the mirror. And yet you convince yourself that this lion in the mirror is going to eat you. But there's no lion in the mirror. And you just say, okay, it looks like there's a lion in the mirror, but there's no lion in the mirror. And you go and brush your teeth and everything, and that's it. Or you say, whoa, not going to brush my teeth this morning. There's a lion in the mirror. And then the next morning you come, whoa, better check and see if the lion's in the mirror first before I go in the bathroom. But there's no lion in the mirror. And when you see clearly, oh, it's nothing. Maybe it's a reflection of light that for a moment looked like a lion, but it's really nothing. And all of this form world is just a reflection of your spontaneous existence, your spontaneous projection. The spirit is projecting this whole show, and you just remain at the source. All of everything that's seen is absolutely illusion. The seer is the reality. But the seer is not seeing in this body. The seer is taking information about what's seen, but it's the formless knowledge that's hearing the speaking, the formless knowledge that's speaking, the formless knowledge that's interpreting. The eyes are seeing different shapes and such, and the formless knowledge is actually interpreting and seeing. It's doing the seeing. But there's not a little guy inside the head, like you see in the movies where he's moving the gears and, okay, we're speaking now and doing all this. It's just formlessness. This is awesome. Maharaj says, ooh, I'm echoing. Maharaj says that you will begin answering your own questions because every question you'll know is coming from the position that I'm somebody or I'm a form. And when you know yourself as formless, the question dissolves automatically, because what question? It's just a doubt that you're believing, oh, I'm not formless. Every question is a doubt that you're not formless. You say, oh, I'm not formless. Then you just remind yourself, no, 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 I'm the formlessness. So I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain body. So therefore I have to be this formlessness, since that is all there is. And a question arises, you know, right away, I've forgotten my formless state and I've taken a form to ask a question about something in the form world where there's no need to ask questions because you're formless. And what could possibly the formlessness? Prior to beingness, you had no questions. So every question is a question doubting your formlessness.
That's a good way of putting it, actually. Makes it very clear.
Well, it is time again. I just looked over. I was like, oh, it's 8:10.
And then again, if you are formless, there can be no question. I mean,
exactly. You can't form a question from the formless state.
Yeah.
And it seems like if there's a question, there's some kind of fear behind it, which is the fear, what would happen if I don't get the answer?
Well, because there's the doubt that you're formless.
Yeah.
You know, the formlessness has no questions. It can't. There's just all of everything, nothing, using body form, that's it. So any question would be doubting your formlessness and assuming the position of being a form. Because in order to ask a question, you have to assume a position of being a form, of a knower that needs to know something. But your formlessness where there is nothing. So every question is just a doubt of your own formlessness. So you remove that doubt of your own formlessness spontaneously by remaining with your selfless self.
Yep. Seems to be the answer to everything.
Because it's the reality. If it wasn't the reality and we were just in like some kind of a self-help group and talking really great stuff, you would not be able to experience this as the reality. And we'd just be talking pie in the sky stuff. But because it is the reality, you know yourself in a real state, this is my formless sense of presence. And anything that appears on that presence is illusion. If I have a question, it's a doubting of my formlessness, and I just have to remain with my formlessness, and therefore the question dissolves or, quote, is answered automatically. I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain body. Questions about how will I be after I attain some realization or enlightenment, how will I live my everyday life? Oh, no, 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 but see, you're formless. This is a doubt about your formlessness. When you remove the doubt about your formlessness, then how can this question arise? How is the formlessness going to live everyday life differently or better or worse? Or this doesn't make sense.
Formlessness doesn't get enlightened either, right?
Exactly. There is no enlightenment. Enlightenment is just basically the removal of the concept of separation brought about by the I am a body idea. That's it. Because once you know you're not body, and yet you sense the sense of presence, then you're formless. So then birth and death don't make any sense anymore. For you to say, oh, what happens after I die? Well, what is that? After who dies? After the body dies, you are like a banana that rots on the floor, unless you burn it, and then you might be burned. But who's dying? No one's dying because no one took birth. It's formlessness. How? So to say what happens to me after I die, that's thrown right out the window because you never were born, so you can't die. What's born and dies is the body, and then maybe the subtle kind of body that's been the train of thoughts about this particular form, okay, throw that away. But the formlessness that you are does not die, and that presence appeared to that formlessness. You did not know, then you knew. When you knew you existed, all this was created spontaneously. So you ask a question of, you know, my spiritual life, I'm sitting and I'm trying to meditate and thoughts are bothering me and this and that. Well, now, wait a minute. That's a doubt about your formlessness. When you remain with the sense of presence, you remain with the I am, you be with you always, then who's this meditator that's meditating that's having trouble with the meditation? And what trouble does the formlessness have? It's just formlessness using form. So you're having trouble with a subtle body about form that you are not. Okay, so we throw that away.
Even why are you meditating?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, as you're believing yourself to be a body form, it's useful to do these different various things. And meditation is important because, like, you can intellectually convince yourself that I'm formless. But on your deathbed, if you have the doubt of being formless, that will arise as a sense of fear, perhaps a sense of terror, that I am dying. And what if this wasn't the reality? Because you didn't know. It's like the hot stove. If I put my hand on a hot stove, I really know it's hot. I understand hot. I've experienced hot. Therefore, I won't do that. So if I am in touch with, if I know myself in a real sense, through meditation, through mantra, through bhajan, and I continuously remain with that sense of presence, I know myself in a real sense, there's no doubt. There can't be, how, there's like death and birth fly out the window. Troubles fly out the window. Troubles are about the body and the form world that I am not. I have to pay attention in the moment, and I can't go out and do crazy stuff because a lot of people will say, well, why don't you go rob a bank or whatever, but that's not very productive.
Because then you'll be imprisoned in the imaginary prison.
Exactly. You'll be in an imaginary physical prison in the physical world as an illusory somebody. Yeah. With other illusory somebodies that have really had a lot of conditioning and probably won't appreciate getting to know that they're nobody.
In which case, you might be out of your body faster than you thought.
Exactly. You may be leaving the body faster than you had expected.
Best to stay quiet, stay mum.
Exactly.
Well, I know it's even so now because there's so many people that, you know, if they heard what you're saying, they'd go, oh my goodness, you know. that's why Ramakant didn't have, you know, rock star status.
Exactly.
Who wants to hear that?
Yeah, everybody wants to be somebody experiencing the nothing, but nobody wants to know they're nothing.
That's right.
Like,
I'm special if I'm experiencing the nothing.
exactly. It's a good place to go. It's very nice, and you can talk about, oh, my job's so stressful, so I just sit at home and I remain with the nothing, and then I'm okay. No. But then when everybody's, and seeing, like I said, the biggest thing, the roadblock of that needs the courage is, so you mean that John and John's life meant absolutely nothing, that it didn't matter at all, that when I'm gone, I'm just gone and that's it. But see, that's from the individualized sense. The knowingness says, no, 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 John is an illusory something that appeared in the nothing. John never was. John appeared to be for a time, but in the reality is just a lump of 5 elemental goo with the stamp of John that the presence in the body is using to experience the dream state.
Mm-hmm. I don't exist.
I don't exist.
Yeah. So.
But at the same time, it's helpful to know that.
Yeah. Well, existence is I am not.
Existing, right. Existing as a person, as a separate individual, and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only rub, is that, you know, you have to separate the existence from the exister.
Well, because the exister is a temporary blip
Yeah,
on the radar of existence.
Mm-hmm.
right.
The parenthesis, remember?
Yeah, exactly.
The
Oh, okay,
parenthesis in
yeah.
eternity. Yeah, we decided it was Joel Goldsmith and then somebody else.
Exactly.
I have to look up that book. I know I have it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea. Open paren, close paren. Goes back to the eternal.
And see, that's why Maharaj says when you're doing mantra and you're really concentrated on mantra, a lot of things will arise. Those tenets, that idea that you are somebody, will fight to preserve this illusory entity that you believe yourself to be. And that's where the struggle comes in, and that's why the mantra and the meditation is so important. So when you know yourself in a real sense, it's easier to kind of let go and not be grasping at the illusory straws, because you know yourself in a real sense. Whether this body is or is not does not matter anymore, because you know yourself in a real sense. Therefore, there's no struggling, there's no grasping. If you don't know yourself in a real sense, as Maharaj says, that spontaneous conviction, oh, so that I am that you are, then there will be some holding on to something illusory, because it's not yet impressed the reality. And the illusory is all that's appearing that can be held on to when the reality is not impressed.
Yeah, that takes some doing. We're by a non-doer.
Well, but see, and Maharaj is the formlessness using form to tell the formlessness in you, you are not body, you are not body, you're not going to remain body. The space in the ashram and the space in the kitchen are the same. When the walls come down, there is no difference. It's just space. The space in the pot, the space outside the pot is the same space. It appears to be separated because of this object that's a pot. But this object is a pot, is an illusory passing thing. And once it is no more, the space hasn't gone anywhere, and it hasn't been divided, and it hasn't been reunited. It's just space, no longer assuming the position of an individual or a separate something, where the illusion of separation can be impressed because, oh, I'm here, and that selfless self is the space in the room. But no, I'm formlessness. I'm the space in the room that's holding the form, and it's the same as the air that's breathing in and out of the body. Is if it had intelligence, this air was coming in and out, speaking in and out, and this body would just be like, and then up, and then up, and then up, as the breathing is going in and out. But the breath in the body and the breath outside the body are the same breath. There's no separation. Once the concept of separation is smashed, no other concept can make sense, because the formless all of everything that you know yourself in a real sense, nothing can happen to that. Nothing is going to happen to that. That was never born. It will never die. It always is. There's a knowingness of being alive, so to speak, the sense of existence in body form, but the sense of existence is because it appeared to that sense of existence that was already there, that now knows, oh, I exist. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening.
Okay, thank you.